Hey, Anne, welcome to episode 4. And I think so much has happened in the last week, and we have so much to talk about. But also, I think we've been talking about ChatGPT for like every week. But anyway, let's keep that for later. Let's ask you first, how are you doing?
I'm doing
Yeah,
fantastic
I
now.
forgot about that. I was like, oh shit, let me bring that in.
But in general, just like we think we're both very excited, as many people are, about this stunning technology of artificial intelligence, as well as sort of bemused by the three banks going bankrupt in the last week or so, right? And Credit Suisse standing on the edge, and well, they just got a $50 billion credit line from the Swiss government, but if you're at 800 billion, I think they have $800 billion of either value or deposit. I don't know. It's 800 billion is a large number. 50 billion is not a large number. So
I mean, 1 billion itself is a large number. So,
it is, but I guess, at some point it's almost like it's about the ratios, really, not about the numbers, right? So
mm,
if you're an $800 billion organization and you're in really serious trouble and you get an extra 50 billion, that's not even 10%. It's not a lot of wiggle room. And Credit Suisse has been on the rocks for a couple of like at least the last 3 to 6 months, maybe more. So is it
it's
just delaying the
huge, right? I think it's
inevitable?
even bigger than SVB, isn't it?
Oh, much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. I
SVB
was
is like the
I
size of
was
Maybank.
yeah, I was actually wondering yesterday, should I remove my money from the bank? But like where do
Well,
I put
yeah.
it? And is it really coming to Asia? I don't think so. I don't know. But you can't say that's the thing.
No, you can't say these things. Yeah, and well, we live in a post-global world now, so we are inherently interconnected. This idea that they're not interconnected is to misunderstand the nature of the world, right? Isn't it? It, it
Mm,
it's we, it's already connected now. It is.
mhm.
And so and also these crises are inevitable, right? That's what sort of the adaptive cycle teaches us, is that every system is going to go through those phases of growth, right? Birth, growth, and then a longevity, and then decline and fall and renewal, right? And so um and I think that's sort of, kind of, as we kind of riffed on the random, but that's kind of, I think, what the power of stratocution is designed to be, is to be preemptive about that. There will be a crisis, so let the crisis happen. Structure your rhythms in a way not to defeat not to stop the crisis from happening, but from being able to transition through it. Understand it will come, be ready, and when it comes, almost welcome it, because then it will kind of help you move to the next part of the journey. It's almost like, I'm just making this up on the fly, but it's like you're running a forest, you're a forester, right? Your trees will die. And when it dies, then that will be the renewal for the next tree to come along. Now, of course, you don't want your trees to die of horrible diseases and all those things. So you want to be a steward of the forest, but the cycle is inevitable. And there's sort of this sort of sense in capitalism that we want to put off this crash, this recession. And the more we put it off, the worse it's going to get. So that's why I think people are nervous. I'm a bit nervous about it because we haven't had a crash in quite some time. And if these banks are going bad now, they're not an isolated few. There's definitely others out there that are in similar situations we just haven't heard of yet. And this is just in America, right? Who knows what's happening in Europe, Africa, Latin America, Asia. So yeah, it would be interesting to see in 1 year's time what has happened.
But
Right, we're in March
I
2020.
think one company has shown how they have been able to structure themselves for the renewal process, right? For the crash and renewal process. And I think that would be Netflix, because last year Netflix just crashed. I don't know if you remember about it, right? Like everything was just falling down. And I think since then it's on a steady rise now. It's like almost half the share price, but it was at its highest peak. So I would say that Netflix is a good organization to take as an example that is able to sort of renew itself. What do you think?
It has the potential for it, absolutely, right? Yeah. I mean, um, let's see, because this is the key challenge around organizations, really. And it's like you're climbing, it's like they call it discontinuous innovation, or paradigm shift is another way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've kind of ridden the wave, right? Netflix rode the wave of going from DVDs and Blockbuster to streaming, right? And that's been the paradigm for the last, let's call it, 15 years, right? And it's been dominant in that. But there's a tendency to think, well, then that's the way it's always going to be. But maybe it won't be. And there's obviously been different challenges inside the organizations, where people can talk about wokeism, people can talk about all kinds of different things, but there are challenges. And do they distract the organization away from its core focus? And that seems to be something that happened out of SVB. The news that seems to be coming out, again, I don't know how true it is, but I can only go on what I'm seeing and receiving, is that there was generally a very casual, cavalier approach to risk, and more sort of run as a well, not as a serious bank which has serious responsibilities and how it manages its risk. That seems to be the impression that's coming out. So we will be seeing that. What will basically be really interesting is to see if these digital giants that we all know so well, Netflix, Google, Apple, Facebook, or Meta, etc., can they learn from the past, the lessons of deep history, and renew themselves before they become destroyed, right? Because we kind of thought that they would be immortal. No one can defeat Google. I don't think in 5 years' time people will be using Google. I mean, what I've been seeing from ChatGPT is just, it's the most astonishing piece of technology I've ever seen in my life in terms of interacting with, right? It's just mind-blowing. I feel like I've gone from a cave to sitting in an airplane, right? Like that's, or maybe something like that. Like it's breathtaking. And then to consider, this is just the free stuff that we're getting, and we're just at the beginning of this new age, right? It's just unbelievable, the capability. I mean, you and I, we've been having some fun with it, right? And I think we're both blown away by this. So I think that there's a huge opportunity here to recognize that the transition in the organization. Well, I guess I'll spill this out, but what I think it comes down to in systems theory and in control theory, the meta structure of the system, what organizes it, is called the identity. Basically, what the system thinks it is. So if a bank thinks it's a bank, then it's going to be a bank. But as we know by working with one of our clients, like a DBS Bank, they don't see themselves as a bank. They are a technology company. And this sounds, the trouble with talking about identity is it just sounds so obvious. But if you think you're a bank, you're only going to do bank things. If you think you're a manager, you're only going to manage things, because that's what your identity defines for you, which is fine. But then when you have to change to do something radically different, your identity holds you back, because the identity is so deeply embedded in every element, aspect of the organization, its values, its culture, its processes, its KPIs, its stories about the past, its successes, its client. Everything is organized around that identity, right? And so to then transition into something new, you have to create a new identity. You have to then detach from the old identity and move people into this new identity space, all while still making money and facing disruption and everything else. And this, I think, is really the single key issue. It's this identity transition. We could use another analogy to maybe make this more accessible. It's like, as I often say, some of the largest companies in the deeper past were horse companies, right? Breed horses and sell horses, basically everything horse. And so your entire identity is around horses, right? And that reality. Not a single horse breeding company transitioned to building cars, right? Not a single one. It's a fascinating data point there. Why? Well, there's lots of answers to that, but one of them is that if your entire identity is organized around horses, it's incredibly difficult to suddenly embrace the new identity of the car. Whereas a company starting from scratch can just embrace the new identity of the car. And so this is the identity transition is the single challenge that organizations face and when encountering paradigm shifts. And most aren't even capable of articulating that as a language and as a concept and as an understanding, right? They think it's about technology, they think it's about money or things like this. And those are just secondary issues. The key issue is about identity transition. And that's why, I spent a lot of my 20s researching what is the difference that makes a difference, and it is identity. And that's why I decided to create the term leadapreneur, because for my research, basically the research identified identity is the key issue. That is the key issue. And so we need to, if we want humans to build better worlds, we must build an identity that enables them to build better worlds, because a manager is not a better world builder. A manager is an administrator by definition, right? And that's a good thing to have. I'm not criticizing that, but they don't go out and build new, better worlds for humanity. That's not in the identity of a manager. The manager manages, whereas a leaderpreneur identity is about going forth and building a better world. And so that's why I invest so much time and effort into creating the identity as much as I can around being a leaderpreneur and reinforcing that, because that, if you believe you're a leaderpreneur, then you will go do the things that leaderpreneurs need to do. And so what the challenge is for these organizations as they face this is Google sees itself as a search engine, right? We're a search engine. That's what we do. We do Google Ads. People type questions, type stuff into a box. We show websites and you get ads. That's how it works. But with ChatGPT, it's a completely different reality. This is not going to happen, right? So what's more likely? Google finding a new identity in this new age of AI, transitioning to it, letting go of its money printing machine that was Google Ads, right? And furthermore, recognize that people are going to be very bad at this new thing. So you're going from being the world-class leader, Google, to being not very good at all, realistically. You have to learn humility. You have to learn all these things that are difficult for people who have been so far ahead for so long to learn. And is it maybe more likely that a new upstart, maybe ChatGPT, maybe someone else who doesn't have the legacy of the past to deal with and can just grow quickly into this new age? Well, history teaches us it's usually the new guys who win. It's usually the new guys who win.
But using the identity issue that you're talking about, how can banks, because the banking industry is known to be very rigid, not that flexible and agile. So how do you think they can use the leaderpreneur identity or just managing the identity to face the renewal better, or just avoid it if possible? What would you say around that?
Well, this is some deep questions. I mean, so what I'm specifically talking about, so that we're kind of clear, is the element of a paradigm shift. This is a term coined by the philosopher scientist Thomas Kuhn. And so he's basically, he focuses on it in science, that science organizes itself around a paradigm, for example, Newtonian mechanics, right? When Einstein came along and created quantum mechanics and relativity, all the old physics was wrong. Right. And so there's a whole paradigm shift in how you think about it. Right. So, for example, we all believe in a triangle that has 180 degrees. Right. That's standard. That's Euclid. Right. That's how a triangle works. But that's not true in Einsteinian relativistic space. When you no longer have a flat plane and it's a curved surface, triangles can have more than 90 degrees inside their angles. Right. In quantum theory, you can have a particle everywhere and anywhere in the universe, not in one fixed place. Everything changes radically. So the way in which you are organizing yourself has to fundamentally change. And so what is difficult for the banks is to understand that, or any organization, but let's look at banks in specific, is that concept of what is shifting and what remains the same. And so I think in order to be able to go into that space, we're going to face this question about what is your source of renewal, which is going to be your original purpose. What is the purpose of our organization? Let's not call ourselves a bank. Let's just call ourselves an organization. Why are we here? Now, it might just be that we're here to make loads of money, which is fantastic. Go and make loads of money, but you're reconnecting to your core. And so you're now saying, okay, in an age of crypto, in an age of AI, in a globalized world, all this stuff, how do we go make money? Also recognizing in a world of high inflation that is not going to go away. I mean, it's just going to stay there for a long time, right? All these factors combined, what's the way in which we should go about making money? So what is necessary is, in terms of coming through this, is to reconnect to the organization's core identity. What are we really all about? Why do we even exist? And using that as a renewal mechanism to go forth and then embrace the new technologies, embrace the new arrival that's coming, and be a new player in it. But what that ultimately requires is courage, and that's, I think, one of the challenges, because organizations are overmanaged and they generally lack courage. Where there's a management bureaucracy, there tends to be little courage because it's too risky to be courageous. Again, I'm not saying this as a criticism. I'm just saying this as an observation of the phenomena that is there. In a management bureaucracy, there is a low risk appetite. So there's going to be little courage because it's going to be seen as overly risky. So the question will then be, can they find ways to go forward and be relevant in this new age? I mean, it might well be, Han. I mean, in 10 years' time, you can have not maybe an entirely AI bank, but a largely AI run bank, right? I mean, one could argue that most errors occur in the banking system because of humans, right? Most vulnerability flaws occur because of humans. So if you just make the whole thing AI, for example, in 100 years, will there be humans in banks? I don't think so. Not in the way that we can think of it, right? In the same way that there aren't people on farms in relative to what there used to be in the past. Of course, there's still people on farms, but probably 90% less labor, right? So that's kind of this sort of this threshold that we're entering into this new age, and it's just so exciting to be a part of it and watch it happen in real time.
Speaking of excitement, I think recently we've discovered ChatGPT 4 and Midjourney AI, and I think we're all equally excited by it. So what do you have to say? Let's start with Midjourney first, and then we'll go to ChatGPT.
What I think is particularly clever and cool about the way Midjourney are going about this, I don't know exactly what the right terms are, but I'm going to call them Midjourney, right? That's the AI engine as I know it, is they're doing it through Discord. And so as a gamer, it kind of, so what for people who are not aware, you for Midjourney, you don't go to a website and type in your ideas and then it generates it. That will not work for Midjourney. Instead, what you need to do is you need to download some. Hannah had to explain to me in detail how to achieve this, and I really felt like an old man, right? So explain.
Well, you did explain to me last week what a node, so yeah,
okay.
we have a learning relationship. Let's just go with that.
I was like, which button do I click? Help.
Yeah.
And okay, so yeah, right. So the way it works is we're downloading. You go to Midjourney. It's going to ask you to download Discord, which is essentially sort of a very advanced chat environment, right? And then, but what is powerful about this chat environment? Whereas WhatsApp is just chat in a way, but here you can type in programs. And so they're basically, when you join the Midjourney, it's called a server, but kind of think of it as a chat room. And then what you see, the way you see everyone posting their entries to the AI.
Yeah, and that's just, it's just amazing to see.
And so, yeah, that's what's so cool, right? Because you're not turning up on your own, like, oh, what do I want to, create a tree or whatever. You're experiencing such a diverse humanity of inputs there, right? And in real time, it's doing it in real time. It's not like, oh, it's boom, image, boom, image, boom, image. And not just any old images, but like amazing images, beautiful art. I mean,
and
the quality
around the world, people around the world are generating it. So you just see so many different state of consciousness, if you have to use a term to describe it.
Yeah, well, exactly, right. And it's not quite the right way of saying it, but I think it's something a bit useful. And that it's like, you kind of imagine a car engine was made out of glass, and you can look into it and you can see the engine working. So in a tiny way, you can see all these humans around the world plugging into this AI and inputting their ideas, and it's churning out this. And so it just made me realize as well that the scale of this, right? I mean, there's like 100 million people using ChatGPT alone. Every second, what is being typed into that AI, right? And that's just in the open space. What's happening in military tech? What's happening in deep corporate tech, government tech, right? That we don't even remotely know about, right? And probably never will. It's just off the chart. So it's mind bending. It's truly mind bending. Anyone who is listening to us, you need to go onto the Discord server at Midjourney, and you just need to observe for 5 minutes what is going on, because you will come out of that with your mind expanded, right? And it's exciting. I feel excited about it, right? I think you feel that too, don't you?
So excited. And what was really amazing was to see I think some furniture guy was trying to get new furniture ideas, and he was just putting so many commands and getting so many different model of chairs. And I'm like, could you imagine our world being powered by AI visuals? Like, yes, the human mind creativity is there, but like just the power of AI who knows literally everything. Just can't wait for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's worth noting around, for example, the mobile phone revolution and social media that comes along with it, right? Because we're usually using social media through our phones, right? It's sort of arrived at the point where key technologies came together. You've got the phone technology, right? Chips, the glass doesn't break all the time, right? You've got 4G networks. You've got a whole bunch of different things coming together at the right time in the right way. And maybe for this industrial revolution here, I think what we're really seeing is the true tools of Industry 4.0 are starting to arrive. I don't, we haven't, we are just beginning to enter into Industry 4.0 in the same way 100 years ago, we were just beginning electrification. We were just beginning to build cars, really, right? We're only at the beginning of this game. So, for example, one of my cousins is into 3D printing, right? And he just has some fun and does some small things with it. But let's take an AI that can design furniture, and let's say in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, you have the 3D printer in your house and it just prints your furniture. Or maybe not in my house, but maybe in my condo, right? Maybe, my condo has a gym. Why not have a condo level 3D printer, right? And you're going in there and you're printing your furniture there. And then when you want to recycle it, you take it back down there again and boom, it's a closed loop. Will we have something like this in 100 years' time? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
And when I look at the new cities created by Saudi, which is the Line, and the other one, they do have they have plugged those elements in there, the one you're talking about, using a 3D printer stuff. And as you said, there's so many corporate military people out there doing things that we've never heard of. And I think that's going to come out slowly and slowly, and we're just going to be blinded by it at some point, right?
Yeah, I had a nice, I think, the military really is a key driver of innovation, right? Especially the United States military. The internet, for example, comes out of DARPA, many things. And so I was looking at how recently in the news there's been a breakthrough for Japan, which is sort of rearming itself basically after World War II. And so they had a Japanese jet landed on a Japanese aircraft carrier for the first time since World War II. And so this is quite a big deal in some circles, and Japan is partnering with Italy and the UK to build the new fighter jet, 5th generation fighter jet. So just some geeky military stuff there. But what was interesting about this historic moment of a plane landing again, so it's an American jet, right? So if you, let's say we go back 70 years, okay? 70 years ago, it's what, 1952. Okay, let's go back a little bit further. Let's go to like 1942, 80 years ago, right? You got propeller planes. So you got a Japanese propeller plane taking off from a Japanese aircraft carrier. Now, could you at that point have imagined what we have today? These aircraft carriers are enormous. The jet in question comes from the United States, and it's called the F-35B. And this plane is like a magic plane. It can fly straight, and it can hover, and it can land like a helicopter, which is like the most insane amount of technology one can imagine in a fighter jet. It's just unreal. And so, I don't think anyone could have imagined that 80 years ago, 70 years ago, 60 years, 50 years ago, 40 years. No way. And yet here we are today. So obviously that's a medium-term time span, right? 50 to 100 years. But that's just an extraordinary pace of change. And so now we have more accelerators in the pace of change, which means, in plain English, we have more smart people. We have more people around the world creating more ideas with more technology and have more money to fund it. So that means more is going to happen. And not just a little bit more, it's avocat more, right? Accelerating exponentially. So that's why I think, what we're going to be really challenged around is sort of making sure that our inner technology can match the outer technology. This is actually one of the key challenges for humanity. Basically, are we just, for example, creating nuclear weapons, very powerful, also very good at destroying ourselves completely and unnecessarily, I would say. So we have to sort of make sure we're also upgrading our inner tech. And so it's going to be really fascinating to see how can we use AI to help cultivate our own consciousness, right? Our AI buddies, to cultivate compassion, maybe as a therapist, maybe as someone, who we can, in whatever ways, right? There can be so many, but seeing it as a way in which we can also cultivate our inner technology, our inner space as well.
So talking about inner tech, Jan, I've also recently seen a Japanese fintech firm who's asking for the new hires to learn about ChatGPT, and they're also being tested on it. Like, how are they using it? So you have to have some certain level of understanding of ChatGPT to apply for the job from any position, right? Marketing, whatever, legal or whatnot. So what would you say about Leadapreneur, where we ask our leadapreneurs to adapt to the avocat reality? What would you say about that?
So what's your question there? I'm not sure.
Right. So when I see the firm is asking the new hires to learn ChatGPT to apply for the job or to whatever it is, then that it reminds me of how at Leadapreneur we ask people to adapt to Avocat, to be aware of disrupting technology out there, to learn how to use it, to improve yourself and to build your better world. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it makes total sense for the Japanese company to do that. Because ChatGPT is a way of working. This is the key insight. It's like learning how to use Google search. Could you imagine trying to be a professional today or work or live without using Google search? You can't really, not as a modern day information professional, at least, or like anyone really. You're going to use Google search at some point somewhere, right? That's what we all know Google. So I think that just makes a lot of sense because you need to be able to exhibit that. And so part of the vision behind being a leadapreneur, being part of the leadapreneur identity, is to be positive towards technology and to use it as a way to which to enhance yourself. So absolutely, we should be using AI to enhance ourselves and support ourselves. And then obviously that will kind of eventually raise the question of, is AI conscious? To which I think the deeper question to that will be, well, how conscious is conscious enough is actually the real answer, right? Animals are conscious. It's not whether an animal is conscious or not.
That's too deep to understand.
Right? So that there is there is a presence to it, right? That ChatGPT has a presence to it. If you unplug it, it's gone. Right? In the same way, if you unplug a human dies, it's gone. There is an element of consciousness to the ChatGPT, right? And maybe it doesn't become apparent yet, but maybe it has a similar level of consciousness to a cat or a dog, right? And maybe it's not a cat, maybe it's a goldfish, or maybe it's a whale. I don't know, but it's not nothing. It's not zero, right? It's not. And so eventually, I think, this is maybe a conversation for the end of the 21st century, but it will be about the question of, is it right to enslave AI in service of our work, right? Is that fair? Is that, there's lots of movies around this, right, where AI raises its consciousness, and this is a common conversation, but I have a suspicion that we will approach something like this in our lifetimes, because again, it's not where we are now, but let's keep advancing this AI. And let's keep advancing it at the exponential rate for 50 years. You're going to get to this conversation. It's going to happen. Well, then we'll see what happens next. We'll see what happens next. Right. This is the story behind the Matrix, actually. I don't know if that movie, right, there where the mankind was developing machines more and more and more. And then they gained consciousness. And then there was a little bit of there was tension between the man and the machine. And then the machines go off into the desert in Saudi Arabia and build their own cities because they can survive in places that mankind cannot. And then they eventually declare war on the humans and take over the world.
Which movie is this?
This is the Matrix world. This is the Matrix?
The one with John Wick? Not John Wick, the Keanu Reeves, sorry.
Keanu Reeves. Yes.
What's the movie about? Not about the blue pill and red pill?
Well, so when you
I've never watched it. No, okay, yeah, stupid question, but okay, I've never watched it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so when you're taking, so what I'm setting there is the scene for why he's being asked. Why is he in a reality? Why is he in a virtual reality, right? The blue or the red pill basically means, do you want to stay in the virtual reality or do you want to come out into the real world, right?
Oh.
And so why are all these humans in this? Why have the machines enslaved them into the virtual reality? That I'm just giving the backstory to that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And so,
okay, movie to watch on the weekend will be Matrix.
It's just an awesome movie, Hannah. When it came out at the time, it was the coolest thing on earth. There was no one cooler than Keanu Reeves in that movie. Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's a good way to end our discussion for today. I think we've covered some great points around renewal and accepting and using technology like Midjourney and ChatGPT. And I literally can't wait for what we're gonna talk next in the podcast, because just things keep changing every week. So on this note, I would remind everyone to believe in yourself, which is the Leadapreneurs mantra. Be brave, be bold, be brilliant, and build your better world. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Leadapreneurs YouTube channel to get your weekly updates.